Being autistic and ADHD and being misunderstood at work. Hi, I'm Brett, the Audhd Boss. I'm an autistic manager with ADHD. I've been serving in a leadership role for more than 10 years. On this channel, I specifically talk about ADHD and autism in the corporate workplace, and I try to offer a strength-based approach to how to handle workplace scenarios and workplace situations with ADHD and autism. On today's video, I want to talk specifically about that weird marriage of overwhelm, anxiety, overthinking, the need to repeat myself, urgency to respond, and verbal processing. These are all symptoms that came up for me in my autism and my ADHD. The fear, the anxiety of being misunderstood. A lot of this for me comes up in two different ways: repeating myself and verbal processing. When I get going, I start to repeat myself because as I'm verbal processing that thing that I need to say out loud, it also might trigger new ideas or new thinking or new ways to process that thinking or new ways to get to that thing. I'm both having this anxiety of trying to make sure that I'm being really, really clear, saying all the stuff that I need to say because I want to make sure that everybody around me is understanding me clearly. But then as I'm going along, I'm finding better ways to clarify myself, clarify my points, and to be more clear, even though it's stuff I've already said and I'm now repeating that more and more and more. But I'm not just repeating it the way that I said it before, I'm finding better ways to say it. But essentially the message is being repeated over and over and over again. A lot of that is the anxiety of trying to be understood, the anxiety of trying to make sure I don't forget anything and that I say everything and that I get it all out, especially in a work meeting or a work situation where I want to make sure I've covered everything. It's kind of like I'm workshopping the thinking as I'm verbal processing, as I'm trying to say it and get it all out. To some degree, it's sort of unintentional, but I'm trying to control the narrative of what I'm trying to say. Ultimately, people are going to hear it the way they're going to hear it, and I can't control how they're going to hear it, and I can't control how it's going to land when they hear it. Everybody's going to interpret things in their own way, with their own lens. At the same time, I need to be mindful of the fact that if I were the person on the other end listening to all of this, receiving all of this information, receiving essentially this brain dump, is this how I would want to get that information? And the answer is no. This would be too much for me. This would be too much for me to process. It's coming in possibly fast. It's an information overload. And I'm now unintentionally overloading somebody with a lot of information, trying to control a narrative, which is kind of problematic. If I can kind of catch myself in the moment when I'm doing this, if I can be aware when it's happening, especially in a work meeting or a group meeting or a group situation, if I can catch myself in the moment, say the initial thing that I need to say, but then if there's not a pressing deadline, if there's not a need to give a full response in that moment, say, you know what, I need some time to think with this. I need some time to sit with this. Initially, I've got some first reactions that I'm happy to share, but for the most part, I'd like to take those thoughts back with me and go sit and process that. Okay, now there's a script that we can use to help ourselves in that situation. Now the next goal is to go back and as quickly as I can while it's fresh in my mind, I go and I sit and I write down sort of my brain dump, or I'll record a voice note, or I might even record a video like this. But I got to get all that thinking out because now the way that my autism and ADHD and a little bit of my anxiety are acting, I got to purge it. I got to get it out of my system, but I have to verbal process. There's a couple of ways I can do this. If I have a trusted friend or a trusted colleague that I can pull in and just sort of body double with me so that I can just sort of blah, all of that stuff out of my system. Or can I sit down and write it out? Do I have enough within me that I can write? Sometimes when my brain is working so fast, I have to talk because, again, I'm a verbal processor. I have to talk all of that stuff out. So either I record a voice note or I ask somebody to sit with me so that I can sort of say it out to them. And if it's a really good trusted colleague or friend, that colleague will actually respond with really thoughtful and really smart ideas and interesting ways to respond to that, which will help me process my thinking further. I try to take notes while I'm doing this too. If I am verbal processing, I'll make bullet notes in my note. But ultimately, if I can write it down though, eventually the goal is to get it all written. And maybe it's not necessarily an email or a draft of something that I send right in that moment. Or even if I'm responding to an email and it's not coming from a meeting, it's an email that sort of triggers that sort of overwhelm, sort of anxiety, sort of that brain dump. If it triggers all of that, and I want to just all of that in one email, instead what I recommend is I write it all out. Maybe I write it in a separate email. Maybe I write it in a separate email that I don't send, but I write it out. I get up, I walk away now. I take a break. This is a good writing trick. I walk away from it for a while. Go take a walk. Go do something else. Some trusted colleagues say wait 24 hours before responding, but let some time pass, either an hour, a couple of hours, a few hours, 24 hours, whatever. And then when you come back to it, can you be your own editor? Can you look at that with a fresh, clear perspective, a clear pair of eyes, and now go through and edit out, look for the redundancies, look for the ways that you can be more concrete, look for the ways that you can be more concise, and then look for the ways where you're going to deliver your argument better. And maybe it's putting things in a different order than you had before. Or maybe it's also, I don't need to say all of this in this first response. Maybe I just need to say this section here, see how they respond, and then save all this other stuff depending on where they come back to me with their response. Maybe I'm going to go in this direction. Maybe I'm going to go in that direction. But I've already captured that thinking ahead of time. So depending on how they respond or where the conversation goes, I have other thoughts ready to go. So I haven't lost those thoughts. I've captured them. So I'm going to sit with those thoughts. I'm going to sit with that thinking and see where the conversation goes. Maybe I do need to respond with the whole thing. Maybe I'm going point by point to respond to something big, and I do need all of that. Every situation is going to be different. Every brain is going to be different. Every person is going to be different. So you have to find the pattern that works best for you. If I have written it out, sometimes what I'll send that draft or I'll read it out loud to, again, a trusted friend or trusted colleague to sort of see how it lands before I send it off officially as my response, so that way I have an opportunity to sort of test my thinking and make sure, I'm not saying too much, or I'm not missing anything. Oftentimes breaking these things down, slowing down, buying myself time. Can I get more time for this? Can I get more time for that? All of these things help with both stopping myself before I take up too much time and take up too much space, helping me from repeating myself all the time. Or if I'm going to repeat myself or I need a verbal process, find the safer space to do it. Find the person that is okay for me to do that stuff with, so that I'm not necessarily doing that in front of a bunch of colleagues or doing that in a way that's, slowing down a meeting or productivity, or sending crazy long emails that, can probably be thought out or be more concise and sort of be better structured so that I'm more clear and concise in what I'm trying to say and what I'm trying to do. It's a strength how much I can process. It's a strength how much I can see of the big picture and how much I can get into the weeds and the details, and I can both see big picture and small items and all that stuff. But if I let that get away from me because of my anxieties or my overwhelm, reacting too quickly, too fast, that strength then becomes sort of a weakness where I then have to go back and clean up afterwards. Sometimes I'm so consumed in that overwhelm and that anxiety and that urgency to respond that I don't necessarily read everything. I might miss something in the process of doing that, where I might be over-explaining in one area, but I've completely missed it's been simplified by that person or that group in another space. I hope some of that advice helps. I'm Brett, the Audhd Boss. On this channel, we talk about specifically ADHD and autism in the corporate workplace. If you find any of this advice helpful, please like and subscribe. It really does help my channel grow. If you have a workplace situation for being autistic and ADHD that you'd like some advice on, please let me know in the comments or send me a note. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. And please check out some of the other videos while you're here as well.